Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley remains optimistic about her prospects despite being in a party in which, according to Pew Research, 86% of its members say electing a woman as president is either not at all important or not too important. Couple that with the fact that she's up against a flagrantly abusive opponent in former President Donald Trump, who is unencumbered by civility, and one wonders where her hope comes from. Politics, of course, is inherently unpredictable, but the prospects of her beating Trump in today's crucial primary in the relatively moderate state of New Hampshire, where he has widened his double digit lead, remain questionable. To get a perspective on the race, Mayank Chhaya Reports spoke to the well known journalist, columnist, and writer Seema Sirohi. She spoke to MCR from Washington. Welcome to Mayank Chhaya Reports, Seema. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There is a Pew Research finding that I was reading, according to which 86% Republicans say that electing a woman president in their lifetime is either not at all important or not too important. With that being the case and Trump widening his lead in New Hampshire today, what kind of prospects are you looking at, for Nikki Haley?
Well, unless there's a miracle, the gap between the two of them is growing, if anything. You know, the latest NBC poll shows Trump at 60% in New Hampshire and Nikki Haley at 38%. So barring a miracle like John McCain pulled in the year 2000, he won the New Hampshire primary, although the presidency was won by George W. Bush. And similarly, Hillary Clinton beat Barack Obama in New Hampshire. So those were very unusual sort of votes and victories. The question is if Haley can pull that off. If the turnout is high, which it's expected to be, that means more. Her campaign says that it means more moderates will vote, and that's good for her.
Speaking of which, last night, midnight, in fact, there was a little poll in a town called Dixville Notch. Uh, just before, as the day was starting, she got all the six votes in that little town, and that made her rather happy that she thought it was a trend, but I'm not too sure, as you're mentioning, he continues to have a wide lead. So where is her optimism coming from?
Well, this is a very important primary for her because it's a do or die situation. She has to remain optimistic till the vote is over because what else can she be? The next one is South Carolina, and there again, if she doesn't win that state, that's really humiliating. So um, she has to be optimistic till the vote is over, till the results are out. Let's see what happens. But yeah, the trend is in favor of Trump.
Which is, I'm profoundly troubled by what's going on here. Here is a man who has 91 charges, four federal cases. He has been convicted for sexual assault in a civil case. There are all kinds of fraudulent charges about his fraudulent practices, and yet he remains such a highly viable candidate for the Republicans. What gives? What's going on?
I am no expert on this. I'm sure even experts are, baffled as to how a person with 91 charges against him and a tendency to say all kinds of things that are really objectionable can still resonate with a certain set of Republican voters. It's might be the same story that it was the last time he won, which is he's managed to tap into some sort of discontent and a combination of people feeling outside, people hating the East Coast and the West Coast crowd, that he's a maverick, that he's a rule breaker. Somehow, even though he's a billionaire, that they think he represents their discontent better than the establishment candidate. I mean, books will be written, and we may uh, any kind of judgment right now would be foolhardy as to why, what are the precise reasons. I think it's a very complex phenomenon that's happening in this country. And he has managed to sort of ride the polarization quite well. Um, you know, Search me. I have no idea what what
But
drives these people, but they are passionate. His rallies are well attended, even though he keeps making mistakes, and makes pretty big mistakes, like mistaking Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi and all that sort of stuff. He's 77, yet nothing seems to matter. He is the ultimate Teflon candidate, it seems.
but it's staggering to me that people in his constituency celebrate willful ignorance. They think it's a virtue. They celebrate felon instincts without any problems. Evangelicals have zero problem with the way he is. He is, in many ways, the very antithesis of what they believe to be Christian values, and yet, like you said, the ultimate Teflon politician. I'm astounded. I mean, you're right. I don't know how to analyze this, other than saying that people have decided to just brazen it out. It's their tribal shamelessness that's at work here.
Right. He has tapped into certain issues, immigration being one of them. And I would say Democrats didn't pay attention in time. Now they are, of course. But I think it's kind of late for them to try to own the issue. The situation at the border has been chaotic for quite a while. But for the first 2 years of the Biden administration, every spokesperson said, oh, everything is all right. It wasn't all right.
Right.
And now illegal immigration is a huge issue. And even Democrats are kind of those who are in the border states, mayors of towns and cities where illegal immigrants are landing up, even they are struggling and they are complaining. So, this pretension in the White House for the first 2.5 years or so, I think has come back to bite them.
What is the view in Washington, where you are, about the race at this stage? Do you think the Biden campaign is sanguine, irrespective of who gets nominated, or they're worried about what's going on?
Well, I think their conventional wisdom is that if Trump is the candidate, since Biden has defeated him once, he can do so again. But I'm not so sure. The polls are like, in a head to head contest. In some polls, Trump wins, and some Biden manages to win. I mean, the lead should be more comfortable, uh,
Right.
but it's not. So there's some Democrats who are extremely worried, as you know, you must have read that strategists who worked for Obama and others feel that the White House has kind of not managed the campaign well. Some of the advisors have not traveled to the various places that are battleground states. And it's generally creaking,
Right.
right now.
Yes.
So let's see if they catch fire. I mean, there's still time. We
Right.
cannot predict anything right now for definite.
Do you think he should consider opting out? Because there are people talking about someone like, say, Gavin Newsom or people of that kind at the last moment. In fact, there was an absurd conspiracy theory that I heard that suddenly Michelle Obama will replace him at the last moment.
So that's the mindset that you keep hearing. I mean, this is I think it was on Fox, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, besides the point, I'm saying, do you think there is any possibility that he might consider that it's not worth it for him?
He might have no way of knowing what's going on in his mind, but if he does, then Kamala Harris would have the first dibs. And to have, or, if Gavin Newsom wants to make a bid, then it'll be a battle kind of late in the game, but
Right.
it could change the dynamics very quickly, because then it would be a younger candidate against an older candidate. And the Democrats who are disillusioned with Biden right now because of his policy in the Middle East and support for Israel, they might come out to vote. So far, the young people and the Arab Americans, Muslim Americans are very upset with Biden. So all those people, how to bring them back
Right.
to the polling booths?
Yeah.
This could be one strategy, but I don't know. It would be very surprising if Biden decided to opt out.
What's your sense about Kamala Harris, about her remarkably low profile throughout this administration? It's almost as if she's incidental to what's going on. Why do you think that it has happened? It has turned out that way?
Well, she is going and doing speeches, and she's tackling the abortion issue, which is a very strong issue for the Democrats. So she's good at that. But she's not speaking out that much on immigration, you might have noticed,
Right.
because she was the first person that the White House had sent out to the neighboring countries, and she didn't seem to make an impact. Um, in terms of her political skills, her detractors say that, she, you know, substance-wise, she is kind of weak, and speaking and resonating with people kind of doesn't happen naturally for her.
Right.
Some of her speeches have been made fun of. You might have seen the memes on Twitter and X now.
Right.
Um, she says, I mean, I don't know who her speechwriter is, but clearly not the best.
Indeed. On a somewhat separate subject, I was thinking that for a community which is 4 million, I'm talking on the Indian American community, to punch so much above its electoral weight, it's remarkable. I mean, you have already Kamala Harris having made history, and you have Nikki Haley pushing the limits now. Uh, how do you look at it as someone who has been there for a long time? So have I. What do you make of the community's success here?
I think it's remarkable that the Indian Americans have, become so prominent that we had at least two candidates in the Republican side, Vivek
Yeah.
Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley now. It shows that it's reached a level of political maturity, the community. There's so many more people fighting for local elections. There are 5 members of Congress right now who are Indian Americans. So, yes, the community has come of age, I would say, and punching probably above its weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was again reading in coming back to the Haley campaign in South Carolina, her home state. Trump leads 6 by 6. I mean, he has 60% support. That's none of this makes sense to me. Sometimes how can that happen? That in her home state, he's polling 60%.
She has to win that state, otherwise it's just that's the end of the campaign if she loses. And the polls are showing that Trump is ahead in South Carolina, so that would be very humiliating if you cannot win your own state. But there you know all the Republicans who are like DeSantis, he opted out, but he supported Trump.
Right.
So nobody wants to take a chance, it seems. Tim Scott supported Trump
Right.
when he suspended his candidacy. So did Vivek Ramaswamy. Whether it's to get a position in his cabinet or what the calculation is, I don't know. But they kind of don't have the courage to take the party back from Trump, it
Right.
sounds like.
Tim Scott was appointed by Nikki Haley.
Right.
And it's an interesting way to say thank you, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, just to last couple of things. Overall, what do you see for America at this stage? I ask especially because the divisions are so reminiscent of what you see in India as well, along the left of center and right of center. It's very sharp here, and it's almost as if it's evenly divided. Not necessarily in India, but here it would seem that way. Since America has an impact on the rest of the world, anything that happens here will resonate elsewhere. How do you see that playing out this year, election year?
Look, it's a very important election. Every American election is important for the rest of the world. That goes without saying. But this one in particular, because in case Trump wins, you can just imagine what he does to NATO, what he does on the southern border, uh, all of the foreign policy priorities, where he goes with them. People in Europe are already quite alarmed, uh, just thinking about the prospect of a Trump victory. Uh, what happens to the support for Ukraine, for example? What happens to NATO itself? uh, it's going to be difficult, even for India, I would say. India had a pretty okay relationship with Trump the last time around. They managed rather well compared to the European countries. But this time around, we just don't know, because I fear, and I've written about it, that illegal immigration could become an issue for India and the US, because over 96,000 uh, illegal immigrants from India entered the United States in the last fiscal year. So and they're all seeking political asylum. And Trump has declared that he's going to mount the largest deportation operation in American history. So all that will, wherever the people are coming from, this will be an issue for all those countries, and India included. So yes, it's going to be very, what shall I say, full of turmoil. The people who are advising him, the blueprints that are being prepared, they talk about dismantling the administrative state. So if you dismantle the bureaucracy, which is what he wants to do, who's going to do all the jobs? I mean, that's the most obvious question. Then the kinds of ideologues he will bring, what do they do to the whole way America functions? So these are all difficult questions one has to start thinking about.
To conclude, how do you explain the fact that despite the economy doing reasonably well, in fact, it's done very well in terms of growth rate, and only yesterday I read that there is sort of a turnaround in the popular mood about the economy. People are beginning to feel good. Do you think that could sway a little bit for Biden as elections approach, or it's too late?
No, it could. There's still time. I mean, we are just in January. So there are many months between now and November, and the mood can change. So if that feeling about inflation, gets tempered, and the prices keep coming down, and the at the gas pump, which is sort of determines a lot
Right.
in American elections. If gas is under $3 a gallon, all that will work for him. And I think the sleeper issue would be abortion rights, the rights of women to have a say over their own bodies. That's an issue that will resonate with Republican women as well.
Right.
And they'll hammer it to the extent they can. And Trump is going to try to walk a fine line, but there's no way he can. I mean, he put those justices on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
He doesn't have a way out on that one.
Yes. Yeah. He's locked in. He's locked in on that. Absolutely. On that note, Seema, I want to thank you for your time. You're always gracious. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.